Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Agents of Recovery podcast. Blue Robinson here. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening, downloading, sharing, and subscribing to this podcast. We appreciate you jumping on, leaving us the reviews, and really helping us move this podcast into the ears and hearts of those who truly need it. As always, we've got Max Hall in the studio. Max, how's life treating you, brother?
Life's too good, man. I'm blessed, so it's good to be here.
It's awesome. And our cohort and companion and friend and mentor, and I could go on, Brock Bevel. How you doing, Brock?
Woo! Let's get it, man. I'm so excited.
Get it on. Yeah. No, you've had a busy schedule, it sounds like, man. You're doing the husband thing, the father thing, the service thing. You've been busy.
Yeah, this weekend was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Listen, I went and did not the hardest things I've ever done, but physically, I went and fed with our church 300 or so youth.
With one loaf of bread?
For 3 days. No. Listen, man, there was like 5 couples, and I don't think I've ever been on my feet from 5 o'clock in the morning to 10:30 at night.
Oh, man.
Brutal. I'm like, I can never work in a kitchen again, ever.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. That's good.
So I'm ready for some entertainment, man.
Keeps you on your toes.
Dude. I loved it.
That's good. It's service at its finest. Well, listeners, today the Agents of Recovery, Brock and Max and myself, we were talking a little bit before we hit the record button on something that can be taken way out of context, but I want you to listen to it with a heart of openness and a little bit of understanding. And this is how we view ourselves in recovery, in life, as a person in recovery, pursuing sobriety, even on that path of healing. And as we kind of approach this topic, I thought we wanted to address something that may seem kind of trivial at the beginning, and that is the way we identify ourselves with the I am. So, Brock and Max, I once heard that the most 2 powerful words in the English language, or in any language, are I am, because anything that follows an I am is your absolute truth. It is what creates you. It is what your focus and goals are driven towards. And as you know, there's programs out there, there's community support programs out there that when you're introducing yourself, you do so with the I am and then a title. And typically that title is an addict. And I get why we do that. It makes perfect sense. It's like, you've got to break down some of them barriers to understand that there are some things that you've got to be very aware of before you tackle them. But when we wear that as a new label and a new identifier, it also has a negative connotation, because that part of addict means that you're also the stigma. You're the thief. You're the liar. You're the cheater. You're the abuser. You're all these things. And as I was talking to a mother who had a lot of loss this last week with the passing of a son, that makes 3 of her sons passing, it broke my heart to see the concept of these young people focusing so much on the I am an addict or I am a loser. We have to be careful with the I am statements. And I'm a firm believer, and maybe Brock, let's just jump in with you first, brother. I'm a firm believer that addiction becomes a part of you, not who you are. But if we typecast ourselves into one paradigm or one category, even if it's maybe even something positive, what does it do to limit our potential? Let's jump in with you, Brock. What do you say, brother?
I do know this. I know that words have power. And what we feed in our brains gives us energy, right? So I believe in this statement so much that I built a coin for who I am, my business, and in the middle of the tree it says I am.
Yeah.
Right? It's stamped onto my coin. And, Popeye actually said it. Remember? I am what I am.
There's not too many people that know who that guy is anymore, so look how old we are.
No, man. Yeah. Come on. So Popeye said it. I know it comes from Exodus as well. I know it's a biblical phrase. But here's where we get in trouble. You ready for this? This is where I'm thinking. Our society puts so many words on us, right? Society tags us with different words. Like I look at Max Hall and I can identify Max from a society angle. Max is a father, right? He's a husband. He's a dad. He's a football player. He's an addict. he's a weightlifter. He's a coach. Like, I can continue and add value to who Max is, right? But here's the problem: if Max does not know who Max is, so if he doesn't have an identifier, and we got to get the surface off. We got to go with a little bit of depth here. Okay, so who am I? Who am I? Like, especially in addiction recovery, I cringe, man. I get so frustrated when we go in to a room every day in front of other addicts and say, I am a heroin addict. I am a porn addict. Listen, I understand that words are power, that we throw those in the universe, but also we have to be careful that when we continue to throw these things out there, that we're hearing them, right? We're playing the tape through in our lives that, hey, I'm still an addict. Oh, my gosh. Well, listen, I guess I want to pose this question to you guys. At what point in my life can I become more powerful than my addiction? To where I no longer say, hey, I am an addict, but I am recovered. I am unique. I am powerful. Right? When do we get to add these adjectives and description words versus continuously beating ourselves?
Max, you went to treatment to a place that I know is very big on that method of recovery too. And I know it does some good to identify as that, because in a world where that was the furthest thing that you thought you'd ever become, humbling yourself enough to identify as it, but you didn't keep that label for long. It didn't seem like that was like a badge of honor for you, as it does to some people. At what point did you put it, lower on that totem pole, lower on that Richter scale of importance, and start putting those things that were more important, in the list of I am a husband, I am a father?
Yeah, no, that's good. And you brought up a good point, because if we go back in my addiction and when I was arrested, or when it was time for me to get sober, right? The really hard part for me to admit is that I was an addict, right? As addicts, we think we can stop when we want, or whatever we think. So at first it was really hard to say, I'm Max, I'm an addict. Like, when we're sitting in the process groups, or we're going to AA meetings and doing all that stuff, I did not like that at first. It was really hard for me to do that. So I had to accept it. And once I accepted it, I said, you know what? Yeah, today I'm an addict. I have been for the last 5 years. And today I'm on the path of changing that, right? So, like I said, I was in the facility. It was a big time, 12-step program. And a lot of that I bought into, and really think there's some really beneficial things in the 12-step program. When I got out, I was going to meetings 3 times a week. Like, I had my post plan outside that I was following, and people I was checking in with and all that. So I did that for a while. I did it for over a year. And then I finally got to the point where I felt like I was sick of going to these meetings and saying, I'm Max, I'm an addict. Like, I for me, mentally, I had to change my I am that we're talking about. I didn't want to be, I wasn't that guy anymore. Okay, and this doesn't mean that I was just gonna move on and pretend like it never happened and that I'm all of a sudden this changed person. No, but I knew where I was working towards. And eventually I'm gonna get to the point where, hey, today I'm not an addict. I'm not. And there's gonna be a lot of blue book thumpers right now, some big time 12-step guys who are gonna disagree with this. And that's okay, because everybody's different in their recovery. Some guys need to go to a meeting every day and identify as that to keep them in check. Okay, if that works for you, great. For me, I needed to kind of, in a sense, move on into the next part of my recovery. And I needed to work on my identity, because, yes, I was a football player and I got to do all these great things as a player. And then I was, now I'm identifying as an addict. So I'm like, I got to figure out who the crap I am. I'm no longer a football player. Okay, that was in the past. I felt like I was far enough in my recovery to where I didn't want to call myself an addict anymore. So now what? What do I identify as? Okay, I'm a father. you know, okay, I'm a husband. But what was next for me? Like I needed something else. And for me, that ended up being coaching, right? I ended up becoming a coach, and that's a big part of my identity now. I've really worked on myself and who I am to where, you know, when we use the phrase I am, I can say, you know, I am a good father, I'm a good husband, I enjoy my job as a coach, I'm loyal, I'm trustworthy. But these are things like trust that I had to work on and gain to where I could put the I am in front of it. Okay, but that doesn't mean we can't. We can. And so the point to where, like going back to what you said, Blue, the point to where, or I think it was Brock, what point is that where we can start saying, hey, I don't want to go around identifying as an addict anymore? I think that depends on the person. It depends on where you're at, where your recovery is going. Are you comfortable in it? So, yes, I was an addict, but I'm not today. But I also understand that I have addictive tendencies that I have to keep under control. And that's when we talk about, hey, when can I be bigger than this addiction? But at the same time, I know it's there somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the process. I'm so glad you said that, because the I am an addict, I think no identifying statement can kill your esteem faster than that. And I like it. And I get why, you know, Bill and Bob in the early days created this pathway and this method for self-identification, because it was such a taboo thing to talk about, and it was such a hard thing to admit. The problem I'm seeing, though, is that now we're putting too much stock in that label, and we're forgetting that when you say that out loud, it's different than when you're saying it internally, because, again, it's that process of hearing it with your own voice. Don't get me wrong, your inner voice is you too, but it's different. And so I think, you know, that mindset of whatever pathway you take is going to be yours. It's totally fine. And the first time I realized that the I am statement could be taken out of context was when I was working at the treatment center, and there was a guy there, and he stood up and he explained, you know, and this is probably a good 13, 14, 15 years ago. I mean, it was a long time ago, so I'm not breaking anonymity here. I don't know who it was. This guy stands up in a meeting and says, I need you guys to know that my name is so-and-so and I'm an addict, and they gave him the salute. And then he said, my recovery is so important to me that tonight's my son's 10th birthday, and he's at home having his birthday party, but I need to be here tonight for my recovery, because if I miss one day, I won't be a dad to him tomorrow. And I got thinking, that is not what this is about. This is something completely different. You've placed that addict mentality so far that you've in essence switched addictions. And I know it's controversial, but I'm thinking somewhere across town there's this poor kid who probably wants his dad to be there, but dad has been out so much now that it's almost as if he was still using. And I got thinking, there's some kind of cross wiring here. I don't think that's what it was supposed to be. And I just it kind of soured my taste for it for a moment. But every time I heard that, I thought, well, he absolutely believes that that's the first crowning jewel in his life is I am an addict first and everything else second. I don't think that's healthy. And I know that we don't want to suppress it so far that it can sucker punch us or hit us on the blind side. But Brock, you pressed that into your challenge coin for a specific reason. We've all lost identities. You know, Max talks about being, you know, NFL, football, you know, quarterback. You know, like officer, like undercover, like career. You know, we've all had these identities stripped from us. Why is it so hard for us to latch on to something else? Because, you know, I love it when Max was there. I think suited up for his first game. I don't think the last thing he thought was, well, I can't wait to start coaching youth, you know, in school. It wasn't the furthest from his mind, but now that's his niche. It's his sole purpose. If we go deeper, you know, Max isn't just a coach; he's a mentor and he's a teacher. And there's so many more things, right? Brock, why is it so hard for us to see other things that are potentially like as life, I guess, you know, producing as an addict? Why can't we just? Why is it so hard for us to see the value in the other labels?
Because as a recovering addict, at least I'm speaking for me, I'm always waiting for the ball to drop. I'm waiting for the bottom to fall out, right? That life is too good. Because in recovery, we're waiting to get punched in the face. Now, Max, I'm going to put a time clock on you. You ready? I'm going to give Max Hall an opportunity because I know Blue would have no problem doing this. Max, 30 seconds, and I want you to identify 5 words, okay, that describe you without using a tag from the world. So you can't use I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a coach. 5 words, okay? And I'm gonna give you an example. Ready? Go.
Okay, I am hardworking. I am non-judgmental. I am loyal. I'm loving.
True.
And competitive. I got to put that one in
Okay.
there.
That's
There
true.
you go.
That was under 10 seconds. I'm really impressed. Right? Because when we think
I saw it in his eye. He's like,
Threw that at me.
That's quick.
hard to think of on the spot, dude.
Yeah. Here's the problem. It's too easy to go negative. We can list our 5 negatives. We can list 100 negatives very quickly. The problem is who in this life is telling us to give us 5 positives, right? And the problem is we're not thinking about that. We're so fearful. Our world almost cuts us off at the knees when we're trying to be positive. Like if I talk, hey, I'm ambitious. People are like, oh, we got to hold that guy back, or I'm dynamic. I know I'm dynamic, you know what I mean? But people can take offense to that. And so I feel like good in, good out, bad in, bad out. So when I go in and walk into an AA room, and I know you guys said, hey, the AA guys, the big book guy, I know
absolutely
that AA works. There are thousands and thousands of people getting sober every day. I know it.
Yes.
If it works for you, keep doing it. It doesn't work for me. I felt like every time I walked in there and said, hey, I'm an addict, I'm reaffirming that affirmation, like when you're supposed to go outside and scream it, hey, I'm a champion, right? But I always felt like I am an addict equated to I am a loser. In my brain, it was a negative because it was something that I could not beat, right? And so when my mind shifted there, so this is where it comes in. We have to have some type in our recovery, and Max said it, I liked it, that you have to have some type of mind shift. What is next? Okay? That we talk about brain mapping all the time. If I'm creating all these great brain waves, and then every morning when I walk back into AA at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm bringing my brain wave right back to ground zero and saying, I'm an addict. Oh, man. I just feel like we gain traction just to lose traction, right?
I
That's
think
my
it's
thought
powerful.
on it.
Max, that wasn't hard for you to identify 5 things, but you're X amount of years into this. I know it was for me. I still feel like there's times I'm a poser, and I'm like, did I sucker people out of a diploma here? Like I'm thinking, is this really me? That like, how much would that have been different, say, 10, 12, 13 years ago?
Yeah, no, this is an awesome topic, and I appreciate what both of you guys are saying right now because it really hits home. Because I'm a firm believer that what you say or what you tell yourself every single day is who you're going to become. It's that whole thing to where your thoughts are going to become your actions and your actions are going to become your habits. Okay? So for me, I was a little weird. Okay? So like if I go back to sports, I would tell myself every day I'm the best quarterback. I am the best quarterback, whether that was in the state or in the nation or whatever. I truly believed, whether I was or not, and I know I wasn't, but at the time I thought to myself, I'm the best quarterback in the nation. I'm the best quarterback in college football. And I would say that to myself every single day to where I believed it. So if I wake up every day and I call myself a loser and I call, you know what I mean, and I don't like my job and I wish I made more money and just kind of all these negative things that Brock was talking about, if I say that to myself every day, well, guess what? That's who you are. That's who you're going to become, right? But if I wake up every day and say, hey, I'm a hard worker, I'm a go-getter, I'm going to get things done, then that's who you're going to be. So if I totally agree. I don't want to wake up every day and call myself an addict. I don't, because I also, with Brock, I associate that with underachieving and loser and all the negative things that come with it, right? So I'm with Brock. I kind of had to move on from that, and I got sick.
Yeah. 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 It's huge. Yeah. Exactly. It does. I'm good, man. Yeah. I dig it. I love it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's weird, man, because again, it's something that we were talking about before we hit record, and we were kind of recapping on Memorial Day as you guys were going over the Murph challenge that you guys did, and I was down mountain biking. I remember it like it was yesterday, man. I'm getting cold chills just sitting there thinking about it, and that was when I had cut everybody off, my friends, even family members, and I'm like, God, there's got to be something else out there for me. I don't like where this is headed. It just didn't feel right. And I had all this money because I had, this job, and when I wasn't buying stupid crap like drugs, right? I went to a mountain bike place here in Provo, just in Provo, Utah, and I'm like, here, I had a big fat wad of cash, and I'm like, what can I get for this? And the guy's like, I'll show you. And I bought this amazing Trek mountain bike. It was decked out, but it was wall art, man. And then one day, after watching, hanging out with my friends on TV, I told you about that, Monica and Chandler and all those guys, I'm like, I'm going to get out and do something. I took that stupid mountain bike up here to the hills of Springville, where I live now. And these two guys come up to me, and they're like, you look lost. And I'm like, in more ways than one, man. So basically, they took me under their wing to get me back down to like society, gave me some tips like get a helmet, and I felt like there's something to this. Maybe I fooled them to make it think that I was a mountain biker. And so I remember I bought a mountain bike magazine, started looking at stuff, to buy for this bike of mine, to get the equipment, to kind of become almost that poser, that fake it until you become it. Because they didn't ask me about my addictions. They didn't ask me if I had money for something. They didn't ask me if I had connections. And I remember very instinctively feeling something different and being like, I'm a mountain biker now. After I got the stuff and went out a few times and was proud to put it on top of my Jeep with all of this mud on it, I'm like, I'm a mountain biker. And I remember that crossover, man. And so that's what put it in the back of my mind all these years later when I started Addict to Athlete was you're no longer an addict. Now you're an athlete. And this is what we're moving you to. But it's harder for people who don't have it natural, that hear it secondhand, right? It's like, hey, here's three guys now that are saying, we get why you do it, and that's great. But there's more out there for you to become versus when they find it yourself. And so I guess my question now for you guys, Brock, let's start with you. What's the difference between someone saying you are versus you looking at yourself and saying I am? Because we take a lot of these you are's, right? And like you're like spouse or boss or family, and you are pathetic. You are a loser, or you have such potential. I can't believe you'd waste this. All these you are's, which is harder, the you are's or the I am's? Brock, what say you? Yeah,
the I am. I mean, I think all of us kind of have that same personality. I'm not worried what other people say about me. If I was, I would still be an addict. I have finally got to a point in my life where I don't need I don't want this to come out sideways either. I need people. I need a good community. I need people that love me and want to help me. But I don't need those people in my life who I used to carry along, who I drag around. Right? And they were just clingers. We call them vampires, right? They just suck the blood out of you. They suck the energy out of you. And when I got to that point to where I looked around and I'm like, man, I am surrounded by people who are elevating me, right? When I looked around and I could see the people that were not addicts, these people were driven. These people, They added value to my life. They didn't subtract it. That's when I realized, hey man, I need to level up a little bit. And I'm thinking about this. Max, you said the number one phrase is I'm good. The other one that I hate is I got this. Yeah. Those two phrases are super scary in recovery. But what would happen, man? What would happen? I remember I used to get super irritated. There was a commercial that came on, an addiction recovery program. I don't know where it's at, but it says, I was an addict. I was once an addict, and now I'm not. And that used to fire me up. I'm like, oh, man, come on, dude. I'm always an addict. You know what I mean? But as of late, it kind of makes sense. I was an addict, and now I'm not. Because 11 and a half years ago, I was an addict. Now I'm not. I actually have more clean time now than I have dirty. Okay? So that mind shift, Max, you really said it. I love what you said, is your habits become your character. Right? When we get to a point, Blue, where we become character individuals, when we start doing the right thing, right? That's where our addiction becomes secondary. And that's where sobriety takes the role. And I want to know, man, what would happen if we talk about stigma all the time. What would happen if we change that stigma in recovery? This is just like a hypothetical. But what would happen if we change the big book, which is never going to happen because it's been there for 81 years. What would happen if we came in and said, we're no longer going to say, I'm Max Hall, I'm an addict. But we're going to say, I am Brock Bevel, I am diligent.
A positive affirmation?
Or we identify, we tag ourselves with something positive.
What do you think would happen? I'm curious. Max, what do you think
positive
would happen
affirmation.
if we shifted
happen.
the game here, if we kind of rewrote the playbook? Yeah.
I actually think it's a great exercise. I think obviously very early in recovery, we still have to admit that we're addicts. Absolutely. But eventually, if we get to the point to where we start saying things, even if we're not there yet, if we start saying them, we'll believe it, right? So I love that. Let's identify as I'm diligent, or I'm hardworking, or I'm loving, or I'm a good father. And you know what I mean? And you start putting that in your head and reaffirming that all the time. Guess what? That's what you're going to be. And even if it seems a little bit far-fetched, that's okay in my opinion. So I like the idea of it, Brock, because we have to start figuring out who we are and who we're going to identify. And if we can write down on paper, this is who I want to be. These are the goals that I want to achieve. And then every day we look at them and we tell ourselves, that's what I'm going to do, and this is who I am. This is who I'm going to identify. I'm telling you, and I know we're talking about it, your brain will shift.
Yeah.
Your thoughts will change, and you will start feeling different about yourself. You will start to believe, early in recovery, man, I'm not trustworthy. No one can trust me. Hey, but down the road a little bit, after time and consistency, I can start telling myself, hey, I'm a trustworthy guy. I can tell the truth, but it comes with practice, right? So, and Brock, I could see you over there just nodding. And so I just want to
you are
touch
versus
real
I
quick
am. Yeah.
on the you are real quick, because I know we brought up the you are. And I was actually, this is kind of funny, I was talking with Kenzie about this just a couple days ago, because for her, the you are, she would try to she would fake a bunch of stuff. She would be in a bad mood or whatever, and she would fake being in a good mood. She would fake wanting to be around people because she cared about what other people thought about her and what they, and she always wanted to be up to date with everything, right? And in the know. And so we were talking about it the other day, and she's just like, you know what? I'm over that. I'm over it. I don't care. If you're my close friend or if you're a family member or whatever, I understand that you love me and what you think about me. That's who I care about. But other than that, outside people, I'm not going to care. And for me, this is a good story. When I first got to BYU and I'm competing for the starting job, I would read every newspaper article. I'd be on chat boards. I wanted to see what everybody was saying about me. I wanted to know what other people thought of me, and it damaged me, right? It was totally negative, and I would believe, hey, his arm's not strong enough. He's too slow or whatever. This guy's better. That would affect me big time. And so when I shut all that out, right, and even today, if I see a comment on Twitter or if somebody makes a comment to me, I laugh at it. I think it's funny because it doesn't affect me anymore, because I've learned that what I care and what I think about myself is the most important.
I love it, man.
And screw what anybody else says about me, because I have this belief. So anyway, I could see both of you guys kind of shaking your head on this whole thing with the I am and how we identify and where it goes. But once we put in the work, I got zero issue.
Go ahead, Brock.
With identifying.
He's coming. I see it. Go ahead.
New, somebody better, right?
Hey, it's cultural. Listen, it's cultural. That's what we've said. We've basically put these parameters about how we're supposed to live recovery. Break the damn parameters. I'm so serious that it drives me crazy. I would like to see an AA like this. Check this out. Or a meeting, our own personal meeting. But when you walk in, the rule says you can't add one negative comment about yourself. Hey, I'm Brock Bevel. I am creative, right? Yeah. And then that's not where it ends. It ends by now, because what we do is we say, hey, I'm Brock, I'm an addict. I'm struggling with this, and we go on and we tell these war stories, right? Yeah. And then I leave there, I'm like, dude, I can't believe what I just sat through an hour of that, and it was brutal, right? What would happen if we flipped the script and all you could do was talk about a win? You have to say one affirmation and one win, and every time you leave there, it's like, damn, that was like a motivational speech right there. Everybody had something positive going on. But I just feel like it's so daunting to take. I feel like I was taking on other people's war stories. I was taking on their trauma. And I'm like, man, listen, we need some positive. I need to see someone winning. I don't want to see that 30-year-old veteran who isn't drinking and he is just a complete dick. He's dry. He's not drinking, but he is the most unhappy human. And if you asked him to give your five top
I think you're spot on.
positive characteristics, couldn't do it.
You're spot on. That's why I think with what we do with the team Addict.
So how long do we have to live there?
We focus on the positive stuff. This stuff is dumb. But here's the deal. That would never happen because it placates into the concept of, well, look at you, Mr. Holier Than Thou, or Mr. Big for Your Britches. But maybe that's what we need because, again, we enter that with this understanding that I am powerless. And I get the humility that's got to come from this, but that word, you've got to be cautious with it. I don't accept powerlessness in my athletes or my clients. I show them that you guys just even having the courage to open the door to come in here is power. So you might have had that powerlessness for a moment, but look at the energy now that you've created because of that. It's not even in discussion anymore. That I am powerless. No, you're not. There are amps and voltage and strength and electricity ready to push you if you'll just channel in and wire in. Right? I mean, look at Muhammad Ali. The man used to stand up and say, "I'm the greatest," and he said that before he even knew that he was. In fact, most of his stuff, most of his jargon, he just said and spewed just because it's like it got some heads to turn. And people started thinking, man, he's pretty confident on his feet. And guess what happened? It worked. People would get in the ring with him and they'd be like, there's something different here, because he knew that he had it. And even if he lost, he did it with grace. But he said, I'm the greatest, before he even proved that he was. And that self-doubt wasn't even in question. Right? But he's the first one to say if he did something goofy or dumb, he'd be like, yeah, that round went weird. But I love it, that powerlessness. I think that's right out the gate. It sinks us, man. Brock, what do you think? Me too.
Man, I hate that word. Right? And I love what you said though, Blue. You said it right.
Yeah.
There has to be a moment of that powerlessness. There has to come that moment of surrender.
Yeah.
We all have been there, and it was our pivot point. I honestly believe that was that moment of, okay, God, or whatever you're higher, but here you go. I can't do this any longer. And I know all three of our stories, we had that moment in there. But for you to stand up and shapeshift yourself and start heading in the direction of recovery and sobriety, that is the opposite of powerlessness. Because every single second that ticks, man, is a fight.
Man.
Right? Early recovery, think about it. That first month, that first 2 months, woo-hoo, man. Yeah. I'm telling you, we could have went back at any time. We could have broke at any time. But that's where, like, when do we talk about that? When do we share that? So you made a point early on, Blue, that the difference between I am and you are. If I walk into an AA room and I say, hey, I'm Brock, this is who I am, here's a win, they're going to come out and they're going to tag me. Yeah. Hey, you are cocky. You are pompous. You're arrogant, right? Hell yeah, I am, because I went through it. I'm 11 and a half years sober, and that was no easy. So to say today that I am powerless isn't flying with me. And seeing these people who are going through it, that are
Max,
going through all these different situations, they aren't powerless either.
Powerlessness isn't probably something that you focus a lot of time on, because it's like, I'm going to find a way either through, around, under, or over this challenge. What comes to mind when that starts dropping into your lexicon, the powerlessness of it all? Maybe when one of your kids you're coaching says, man, I just can't do this, and it equates to powerless over the situation. It's garbage, isn't it? We got what we need inside of us.
Yeah, and when we might get criticized about our ego, right, or that we have pride, and I don't see it like that. I see confidence, and I see a good pride, taking pride in what I'm doing, taking pride in myself and my life, and I don't see it as too much of cockiness or the attitude of I got this.
Did that change for you, Max? Did that change for you? Because you've always, from what I've known of you now, getting to know you this way, you've always kind of had that I can do really hard things. Was there ever a time that you felt like, I'm talking not addiction, but in life, like maybe I bit off more than I could chew here? Or did you always feel like I can see the end of the tunnel here, I'm just going to push through it?
I think I've always felt like that with anything. And I felt like if I worked hard enough and put my mind to it, that I could accomplish it. Addiction was the one thing where I said, hey, here's a moment where I can't. And here's a moment where I am powerless, and I got to let somebody else take the wheel and help me get going to where I want to be.
Right.
Right? But here's what I hate about the word powerless. In my mind, powerless means that I cannot change because I don't have the power to. And I totally 100% disagree with that. If you want to sit here and tell me, oh, you are who you are and people don't change, I disagree with you. I 100% disagree with you because I think we're evolving and we're changing every single day. We're shifting our minds. We have different thoughts and actions. Okay, we have different beliefs. We have different attitudes, different motivations. Like things pop up in our life. We change. Powerless means I'm not going to change, and I can't accept that. I can't accept that I can't get better. Like that's not okay to me. And I remember early in my recovery, I had that. I had a mentality of almost like, okay, yeah, powerless, but I felt judged. I felt like I just kind of wanted to stay to myself. I was afraid to be in public. I was afraid to talk to people. I felt like I had lost all credibility, and so I would just keep my head down. And I would go to meetings, and I just wouldn't say anything. I was the guy in the back with my head down, and I just had this whole demeanor about me that, hey, I kind of got knocked on my butt here, and I'm kind of trying to wait to see if I should or if I even can get back up here, you know. And so I had this weird attitude about me, and that brought on depression, and it brought on other things that were really affecting my life. And when I finally made that decision that this is over and I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and I started on that path, again, my confidence, my attitude, my mind, everything started to change. And now I'm proud to stand here and be like, hey, I'm not an addict today. I was, and I went through that. Okay, I got addictive tendencies. That's not who I am today because I've changed. Because I've taken, you know, it's a kind of a funny phrase, I've taken the power back, right? I've taken control of myself and of my fate, and I've made the point that I can make decisions for myself, and the decisions that I'm going to make are going to shape who I am. And that's the belief of where I am now. Even if something bad happened to me, or even if I relapse or whatever, I'm not going to change that mentality. I'm gonna see it as a mistake, and that I maybe got to go back to doing some things, get my things back on track. But I ain't gonna change my mentality and go back to being powerless and go through that whole thing again. No, I've come too far from that. Right? I'm gonna stay where I'm at, and I'm gonna keep looking forward, and I'm gonna keep looking up to where I want to go. And I'm gonna keep the mentality of confidence, and that I'm gonna do whatever it takes to reach that goal.
Yep.
So that's where, man, I can't.
Well, it's Muhammad Ali again. I'll show you how great I am. Then
issues,
you want to test it?
Put your dukes up, because I got an issue with that. Exactly, and you know what's funny? And I had a poster of Muhammad Ali, and I had it like in my house in Utah. When you went down the stairs, there was kind of a wall right there, and I put this poster up there. So every morning when I walked down my stairs, I saw this poster, and it's that poster of him. He just knocked somebody out, and he's kind of like standing over him, flexing a little bit. I can't remember who it was, but I look at that every single day and have that attitude.
I love it because I hear it.
Great.
I hear it, and what I want you listeners to understand is that powerlessness kind of puts that false pretense into us of self-doubt. And what you just heard Max explain is that once he's like, wait a minute, I'm doubting my abilities. I have proof I have success. Brock does the same thing. I have proof that I can be successful, but I'm powerless? No. That self-doubt kicks in, and then you get to weigh that out, right? Self-doubt can be found in everything we do if we allow it to settle in. So no matter what is nagging us, the moment when we believe in ourselves above anyone or anything else is the time that we start to achieve sobriety, success, all these things. And I think that self-doubt comes directly from that belief that we're powerless over situations, circumstances, life. And that breeds some pretty horrible I ams. I am helpless. I am hopeless. I am a lost cause. All these things. Brock, why is it important for us to get this message loud and clear to those who are on the fence of like, but can I be anything else? Typecast into one category of life. This is, and I hate this statement so bad. It is what it is. It's the dumbest thing ever. What do you think, man?
Ooh, man. I just heard. I heard what Max said. I heard what you said, Blue, and I. This is where it gets hard. This is the advice that is difficult to give somebody, because I look at people and not all of them are as strong as you, Blue. Not all of them have had the successes you have had, Max, where they can go back in and they can reach back into that pot and say, okay, I have this experience in my life. I've walked onto a football field and won games in some hard, difficult times. Yeah. So the advice is, the thought is this, man: surround yourself with amazing people. Yep. Surround yourself, put yourself in places where you can grow. If you feel that you are powerless, you're in the wrong place. Move your ass. Like that is the truth. If you are in an AA meeting, or if you're in a church, if you're in a location where you cannot feel elevated, if you do not feel powerful, if you do not feel spiritual, you are in the wrong place. Seek something else, right? Because you think about it, man. I need to elevate who I am. If I hang around with people who are not elevating myself, they're tearing me down. That's one of those hard decisions that we've all been faced with, right? Like, how do I make that move? I'm in active addiction. Where do I go? What's that first step to make that move into finding that power? It is the first positive decision you make. It is the first win, right? It is the first win. Then you go do a second win. And then you make a third win, right? And you become more powerful. But right there is where it gets hard. That's where it gets hard. You all know that, right? You almost get sucked back in. You almost get sucked back in. And so my invitation is, listen, man, if you've never walked on a football field, if you've never gone through the battle yet, listen, we didn't at our point either. When we were in active addiction, we were in it. And it did take one decision to change and alter our total future of where we are and who we are today. One decision, right? One decision that led to a second decision, that led to another decision, that
it's
just kept
mindset,
compiling
because I look at what
into
you
good
just said.
decisions.
So
and now I
powerful.
look back 11 and a half years later and say, wow.
Said. I look at that pivot point not so
right?
much as an I am first, but an I can first. An I can first, and that I can created a mindset of me being able to accomplish something challenging in the face of adversity, which then kind of rolled into giving me the confidence to try something new, which then kind of became like a highlight, an opportunity for life in real time. Does that make sense? It was a snowball effect. And so the I am came, and the moment when you can say, I am, fill in the blank, and then mean it, you've embodied self-belief, and that's what changes our world, don't you think? I mean, instead of I believe I'm an addict, when you can embody and believe and mean the I am, fill in the blank, you've got it. What do you think, Max? Yeah. No.
I agree. You just said something. Change your world. Change your world. But you're not going to do that in one day. You're not. It's exactly what Brock just said. It's little steps at a time that eventually, after 11 years, Brock, have added up to this whole thing, and all the success and everything that you got going on started with small decisions, right? That's how you start to change your world, to shift your mind and change your attitude and your outlook.
You dislike greatly.
Right? Yeah. So, and I hate that.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say, hey, that's a strong word, but I don't like the taboo of this whole thing, the taboo of addiction and talking about it and keeping, you know, and I don't want to talk about it all the time. You know what I mean? It's good for me to come back to it and remember it, but you know, I had an experience this weekend, a close, you know, he was a close friend of mine growing up, but I hadn't seen him in like 10 years. Just OD'd and died. So I was attending his funeral this weekend, and I really did feel like people were afraid to talk about what was going on in his life, you know, and it's still like a taboo thing that we have. And as I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about my friend and I'm reflecting back on my life, and the thought comes up, that could have been me. That could be me in the coffin. That something like this. I'm lucky, but I started thinking about all the bad things and about my addiction and everything that I did while I was doing that, and I had a sick feeling. Like, I did not like the feeling that I was getting, remembering all that and thinking about that, right? I understand there's a certain part of it where you got to remember the pain and all that, so you never want to go back to it. But I don't want to live there. I don't want to live in it, right? It's this whole thing about changing our world.
Yeah.
So look, well, how do I do that? Well, what are the decisions that I got to make, okay? Well, it starts with the decision that you're done, okay, and that you're going to move on. And then, are you going to make all the little decisions from there going forward? Okay, whether that's, hey, I'm going to start going to the gym every morning. Or, hey, let's say you hate your job. Let's say you're working at a low-end job, you hate it, go back to school, right? Finish your degree. Or go get your real estate license or something. Change what you're doing.
Yeah.
Change who you're around. That's what we're talking about right now. It comes back, that book, I brought it up before, but Chad Lewis wrote it. It's called Surround Yourself with Greatness. If you want to be great, surround yourself with greatness. Okay? If you want to be, let's say you want to be a great basketball player, and you go to the park and you're playing all these guys who suck. They're not good basketball players. You're not going to get any better. But you go to the other park where all these dudes who are great basketball, and I'm playing with them every day. Guess what? I'm going to get better. Right? That's how you get better, is who you associate with and what your goals are, because your outlook on things are going to change. So, okay, you don't like your job, you don't like your situation, whatever. Stop, get a piece of paper, and write down things and choices that you can do to start fixing towards your goals.
Yeah.
And then every day look at them, say them to yourself, and what action are you going to take to go do that? Here's something simple. I needed to get rid of my phone. And I know I've talked about this before. I did not want to get rid of my phone. I didn't want to change my number. So I had to make the decision to go down to the Verizon store, hand them my phone, say, I need a new phone. I need a new phone number. Okay? I need to erase this clean. I didn't want to do that. Okay? I thought I didn't want to go see counselors all the time. But I needed to. I needed to find the right one. I needed to get with them, work through some stuff in my life to get past that. Okay? I made the decision to do that. I made the decision to get off the couch, to go find a job. You know what I mean? Little things started out just like what Brock was saying. And it changed my world. It changed who I was. And I like who I am now. I can look myself in the mirror and be okay with that, where for years I couldn't. I couldn't do that. And so for the listeners, hopefully there's a little hope here. Hopefully there's a little insight. And hopefully you write down today, right now, as you're listening to this podcast, I hope you grab a piece of paper and write down what you want to change.
I love it. And can I add to
change?
That,
What
Max?
little choices
Because
are
I
you
think
gonna
this is a
make
big
to
deal.
start
Listeners,
changing? That's a challenge that I have
with
for
this
listeners
challenge
right now to
that Max is throwing out there, we want to see him. Post them onto our Facebook and social media outlets. I'd love to see these, because what Max just said I think is important, and maybe we should all go through this. Because what I'm hearing, and this is, see if I set this up correctly, you guys, is that we started with an I am, then we went to an I can, and now Max has just plotted out an I will. So if you think about this, there's 3-stage steps that we just discovered here. I am, I can, and I will. Think about what that will do if you take it to heart. So for instance, like this, I think we should all go through this. Like I am, and the first thing that came to me when I was thinking this, when Max was saying that, is empathy. I am empathetic, right? Therefore, I can help people in this addiction world, right? So I will make myself available to be that ear, to be that support. So I am, I can, I will. When Max said that, it all just kind of lined up, right? And so listeners, this is, and the cool part about this, listeners, we're just talking. None of this is scripted. None of this. This is just what you do when you start really kind of leaning into a topic. Brock, what say you, man? Yeah.
Man, here we go. We ready? You gave me chills, Max, for reals. And Blue, I wrote down exactly what you just said. As we were going, I'm like, I can, I am, I will. I can, I will, I am. And I started figuring out what we were saying there. But all of that is action. Every single thing is action. I love the mantra, just do it, right? It's so simple. The problem is we are so content with negative self-destruction. It is easier to beat ourselves down. It is easier to use drugs than to become sober. It really is. It gets to the point where, like, listen, I'm too far gone. I'm too vile to save. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares where I am. You know what? Bull crap. Get up. Stop it. Stop it. Like, I'm being, this is real talk. What you've heard today is honesty, right? What Max and Blue just said is you got to change your cage. Right, we talk a lot about that. We almost live in a cage of self-destruction. We want to be around the same people because they elevate our use, right? But what Max says is go read the book, right? Go surround yourself with big people, with good people. But the problem is, Max, we go to that secondary basketball court and they don't let us play because we suck. And so what we do, we take our ball and we go home and we pout. Well, I suck. This is who I am. No, it's not. Stay on the dang court. Stay there. Keep pestering them. I want to play. I want to play. You suck. I don't care. I still want to play. Right? It's about being consistent and doing something. Right? And not always going back and hiding and sulking. Right? I if we're going to talk real, I feel like in my addiction, I was weak-minded. I was soft. Cotton soft is what I would tell people. I was cotton soft, right? As soon as some negative happened, I buckled. Yeah. It became difficult, right? And it wasn't until I took my power back, like you said, like I took my power back. I stopped being a bitch. That's what happened. Yeah. I got tired of it. I got tired of saying, dude, that guy affected me. Well, dude, who cares? Like, start doing something. And I love this topic. I love what you guys have shared. This is very simple stuff for if you're in active addiction, do the next right thing. One thing. And then build on that.
Yeah.
Yes. Who cares? I love that, dude. Who cares? Who cares what other people think, what they say about us? Who cares? Because the only thing that matters is what you think. Okay? And there's that saying, I might have said it on one of these podcasts before, but it's whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So the next thing with that is if you think you can't, the question that I have for you is, why not? Like, why not? Honest excuses get you honest results. So you can come up with some great excuses. Okay, if you want to have a different mentality, a leadership mentality, a winning mentality, you're going to figure out how to overcome those excuses. And you're going to get rid of them. And instead of coming up with excuses, you're going to come up with solutions. And you're going to write those down. And then you're going to write down the actions that you're going to take to fix it. And then just go down the list. It can be as simple as that. As simple as that, if you break it down and take it one step at a time, you're going to start to get into that I can phase and get out of the I can't. Because for me, that whole thing, why not? Okay.
Why not?
Hey, you're playing a team that is way bigger, way better than you. There's no way you can win. My first thing I think is, why not? We can win. Why not? And if we don't, we're going to go down swinging. We're going to give it everything we got. We're going to compete, right? And so why not, guys? If you're in that phase right now and you think you can't and you're too far gone and you've lost everything, maybe you've lost your job, you've lost your family, and you're just sitting there thinking, I can't do this. It's too big. It's too much. I can't.
Love it.
Well, why not? Exactly what Brock just said. Quit sitting there being a little bitch and figure out how you can do it. Okay? And if you need help doing that, call Brock. Call Blue. Right? You guys are professionals. You guys know what you're doing. Call someone to help you. They may sit down and help you write it out, help you get started. So that's a whole part about the team. Surround yourself with greatness. Why not? Quit thinking that you can't. And that really, and someone might be sitting there being, oh, well, Max, that's easy for you to say. Look where you're at right now. Or Brock and Blue, you guys have been sober forever. Like, oh, yeah, easy for you guys to say, hey, dude, we were there.
I love it. You said that.
We were right there. So don't give me that crap.
I'm
excuse.
piggybacking off of
why
what
not
Max
get it
said,
done?
and that's
What do you have to
to
lose?
write
Why
it
not?
down and
Hey, Blue,
say it
Blue,
loud.
throw that homework out.
Document
Throw
it.
that
I wanna
homework
see
out. I
it.
want to hear that because I want to
Drop
do
it
it.
on our social
Throw that
media.
homework out.
The I am, you fill in your blank. So then I can do what with that, and then so you will, a physical step, something you're going to do to make it happen. See, this is the thing I think that we get stuck with, guys, is we take this just for today mentality, or and that's, I'm sorry, but it's lame because it's not action oriented. What does that really mean? Just for today, what does it mean? The I will means you're going to do something physical, something tangible, something that's going to be now, and then when's the now? So it's like you're going to do something physical. I will talk to my boss, get my job back. I will talk to a therapist about the stuff that's been been bottled up. I will apologize to my wife for the things that I've been hiding from. The I will is action oriented. I am, I can, I will. I would love to see what this can create out of the listeners, out of the folks that maybe if you don't have an addiction yet you have some negative thoughts. Maybe you forgot who you are. I am, I can, I will. Please share them. I would love to see them.
And I love that we got there, Blue, because the I will means a lot to me, and I'll tell you why. About 3 years ago, we were trying to come up with the slogan for the year. Every year in football, you have a certain slogan. Like, some people will do like faith, family, football, or like, compete every day, or you know what I'm saying. So we came up with the phrase "we will," and it stuck. And so if you go into our weight room over here at the school, big on huge letters on the back wall, it says "we will." And it's something that the kids walk into the weight room every day and they see. So this is like awesome, and it's hitting home for me. And the we will from a football standpoint is, hey, we will work hard. We will overcome adversity. We will be a team. We will respect each other. We will win. We will prove to other people that we belong, And so it's such a cool saying, and I love that we got to the I will, because if you put that, and again, I'm a little kooky, but I would put stuff like that down on a sticky note, and I'd put it on my mirror, and I'd look at it every day. And it sounds silly, but do it. Do it. And then write down the steps. Hey, if you need to see a counselor, so write down in your plan of action, okay, I need to call a counselor. I'm going to research it. Here are the 3 places I'm going to call, and I'm going to make an appointment. Okay, then you might be done.
But that's the thing. I love it, right? If you're taking Max's challenge, and maybe that's your first step, right? I am teachable.
And it doesn't. When you
mission
do it like
accomplished.
that, it's not that hard.
I can,
You can do it.
write
Have the
on
I will
paper.
mindset.
Fantastic. I will put these sticky notes on my mirror. It's that easy. And then that's what Brock says. It's a slow process, step by step. And as you increase and get bigger, pretty soon you are who you are. Like Popeye. I am what I am. I think it's awesome. Brock, final thoughts, brother.
I love you guys, man. Seriously, you elevate me. I felt like every week this is a therapy session. I needed this. I think hanging out with you guys, I'm leveling up. You guys are making me better individuals. So that's my invitation to other people out there that are listening, man. Find people that will make you want to do things.
I think it's better that way. That way it's coming from the heart. It's coming from the heart because it's coming from the agents of recovery.